Hi, it's Deacon Micki from Trinity Episcopal Church with your Deacon moment for the week. We've had a lot of things that have gone on over these last few weeks. We have COVID, where we haven't been able to leave and schools closed down and we're having to wear masks. And now that's kind of opening up a little bit and people are getting out a little more. We're still wearing masks. It's still a little iffy, but we're moving through. And then now we've had these marches because of some racial violence that has hurt a lot of people. And the thing is that we have to talk about what's going on in our families and in our communities in such a way that we hear what the other person is saying. So when we have these very difficult conversations, they're not conversations that everyone is going to be open to. So I wanted to talk a little bit tonight about making sure that you're hearing what's being said. So when somebody says something about these marches and what's going on, and even if you hear a word that really catches you in a way that might shock your system, my suggestion is to wait. Don't respond immediately. Make sure that what you heard is what was said. So for instance, you take a deep breath and maybe say something like, I'm not really sure I understand what it is you said. Or, I think what I heard you say is, and then say what you thought you heard. And maybe it's right, but maybe it isn't. But there are too many of us who are not listening in such a way as to understand what the other person is saying. I think it is especially true if you're an Anglo person and you're talking with a person of color. I think a lot of times we think we already know what's going to be said, but that's not true. So we need to take a lot of time right now to hear what the other person is saying, because sometimes we don't hear their pain. Sometimes we don't hear the other person's anguish, frustration. We need to be able to hear those things. We need to be able to respond with empathy. We need to be able to respond in such a way that the other person knows that we're hearing their pain, we're hearing their frustration, we're hearing their whatever emotions they're giving us, that we're hearing that. And then we can respond back and the conversation can continue. A really good way for that conversation not to continue is to assume that you know what the other person means, or assume that you know how the other person feels. This happens in families, it happens in communities, it happens in cities, and it happens in countries. We all need to spend time listening. It is especially true right now that we need to learn and we need to understand those things that we don't know anything about. And so I think what a good thing for us to do at our church is to have some books, some titles of books that maybe might be useful for you to help understand why the marches are going on, why we need to continue the conversation, books that help our children understand. When we have very young children, they only know that they have a friend or a classmate. They only know that they like the same things, like the same dolls or clothes or trucks or whatever it is. So they might be confused at why everybody seems to be so angry with each other and why the conversation is so hurtful. We need to be able to talk about that. This is not anything new. We've had marches and we've had riots and we've had people not being able to speak to one another in cycles for many years because we haven't solved the issues. So maybe this time we can hear each other, and maybe this time we can find ways to find common ground. And above all, especially as the church, find ways to love each other enough to be okay with our differences. If God made all of us, then apparently God loves diversity. And if God loves diversity, why would we all be the same? So, especially right now, it is important for those of us in the church to practice what we say we believe, and that's that we're all made in the image of God. And then we have to listen. We have to listen to understand. Not listen to speak, but listen to understand. So, I wanted to make sure that tonight I reminded myself that this is a time to listen, and this is a time to do more reading, more asking questions, more working through situations that I don't always understand. And I am encouraging all of you to do the same in your families, in your church group, in your community. Speak in love and listen to understand. See you next time.